So we're going to try something today we've never done here in the weekly calls, and we're going to try and do this live from the floor of Ignite. So welcome everybody to Ignite. So if you've never been to Ignite, it's kind of a huge event. We're here in the Expo Hall. I've got some other Patterns and Practices team members with us. We'll take a quick look around. We'll take a quick look around the auditorium here. If you are here at Ignite, do please stop by and say hi to us. We've got a bunch of great swag, great little stickers, things like that to give away. So a couple of quick housekeeping things real quick. I did want to say again, there's not going to be a meeting next week. We're going to skip next week. We're going to move to bi-weekly meetings. We're going to go to October 13th will be our next meeting after this one. So remember that. Like I said, we'll try and get that communicated out as best we can, but remember that. And then as well, you know, we've got some great stuff to talk about this week around the JavaScript core component. We've had a lot of great folks coming by and giving us some feedback. We've got some awesome new ideas to help, especially around, we've got some great feedback around improving paging around list items and possibly adding paging to search, which I think could be pretty cool. So some great ideas, always looking for that wonderful feedback from the community. But let's take a quick look around the Ignite here. And this is our booth, the Patterns and Practices booth. We're actually sharing a booth with the Fabric guys. So the Office UI Fabric folks and us are sharing a booth. So if you haven't seen, they've got a new website. We'll zoom in on that. A new website for the Office UI Fabric. So check that out. It's got a lot of updated components, new components. It's a lot cleaner layout to find the stuff you need to find. So very cool. It's something we've encouraged everybody to use and would hope you know, continue to use that in the future. And so moving around here, you can see the Ignite Expo Hall is a pretty big place, and we're just in the Microsoft section here. We're going to quickly get around here. I've got folks trying to avoid being on camera, and so we'll look around the Expo Hall here. There's Frank, everybody, Frank Marasco, the legend, and we're coming around Ignite here. Are you presenting video? Yes, we are. Are you guys not seeing the video? I might be a little too close to the... Not seeing any video. It looks like it's coming through. No, I see it. Okay. Okay. Yep. Sorry, I'm not sure. We've got a test monitor where we are seeing the audio. We do have a couple special guests who are going to drop by. Unfortunately, they're running a tiny bit late this morning, so keeping an eye on the clock there for that. But this is going to be a little bit of a looser session. We don't have any slides or anything, but did want to say, does anybody have any questions or anything they want to sort of discuss as we're waiting for our first special guest to arrive? Anything that's going on with you guys? Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be able to hear you, but if you can type into the IM window. But so here at Ignite, we've also announced a whole lot of new stuff around the SharePoint framework. So we've got some great new stuff coming there. A lot of it, folks on this call have heard about from Base's updates last week. But we've got update 4 is currently out there. Update 5 is on the way and will be released very soon. If not, can I run through the new announcements at Ignite? Sure. Well, I don't want to steal one of our special guests' thunder. I've got somebody really keyed into the engineering team to hopefully go through a lot of those announcements. But JS Core, obviously. So JS Core, the big announcements around JS Core are sort of, we're starting to get involved a little bit more in the product team. The folks there are kind of seeing the work we've done and seeing some of the value around that. So we're not quite like an officially supported part of the SharePoint framework or anything like that. We're still optional, so you can use JS Core or not as part of the SharePoint framework. Of course, we encourage you to. We've had a lot of folks stopping by the booth who haven't necessarily heard of JS Core before. They've heard of the other Patterns and Practices pieces, but getting them and showing them JS Core, so I think we've turned on a lot of new folks to that. We continue to see the request count going up for JS Core, which is exciting. I don't have the latest numbers, but the trend is up, which is great. Other announcements. Yeah, I really don't want to steal the whole special guest thing here, but so for the other stuff that's going on, the SharePoint framework, we're looking to get that to GA, so landed by the end of the calendar year. I don't know if that was announced prior to Ignite, but so that is one of the announcements that we've got. And then coming in here, we've got. Sorry, I'm really trying not to give away too much from our folks that are going to stop by. Other new stuff that's going on, we've got the Partner Pack V2 has dropped for patterns and practices, and then SharePoint framework stuff in general. We are looking at a lot of the issues that have come in and been reported by folks in the community, such as the folks on this call, and trying to get those addressed and really driving down to a final release that we can do for the getting the SharePoint framework out there and available for everybody to really start using in their sites and things like that. So that was kind of a very broad strokes at the new announcements. But soon, hopefully, I'm kind of looking around. So any other questions while I kind of dance a little bit, sort of making some time here? When we decided to do this, it was either going to be a really great success or a little bit of a train wreck. And so I think we're about 50-50 right now. We'll see how the rest of the call goes. What's the buzz like this year at Ignite? A lot of the folks we've talked to, there's a lot of excitement around, we've got a lot of new sort of product stuff coming out. To be super honest, there's a lot of questions around the future of all of the on-premises products. So there's been a lot of sessions and discussions around that. What's the future? What's the roadmap look like there? I don't have any major announcements. Everything continues to be supported on-premises for now. But obviously, folks, have questions around that. Want to see what the future is. Yammer is not dead at this point. They have, as we've talked about before, moved us off of the Yammer for our stuff, for the IT community stuff. We've moved to the Microsoft Tech community, which I know has not yet been a smooth transition. It's something we're working to improve. Other buzz that's going on, we've had a lot of announcements around SharePoint roadmap. So we've got some big stuff coming up in terms of release schedules and getting new features. SharePoint Feature Pack 1 was announced and I believe released this week. So that's out there for the on-premises folks. Yep, SharePoint. There's been a really big push for SharePoint at this. Jeff Teeper, who's the corporate vice president, who's got SharePoint and OneDrive, has himself done a number of sessions and been at a lot of the events. We had a SharePint event, which was really cool. And he was able to attend that, which is really great. And as well, Adam Harmitz, who is the VP for SharePoint, has made those events. So it's been really cool. You're seeing a lot of support from the product group. You're seeing all those folks showing up to events, and you're seeing a lot of the senior leadership around SharePoint showing up to events, which I think for those of us who do SharePoint for a living really highlights the advantage of just where we are, in terms of Microsoft's thinking that SharePoint is not going away or being left. Instead, SharePoint is really going to continue to grow and be enhanced and be a core part of our offering, which makes me feel good as a SharePoint professional, and hopefully makes all of you feel good who are doing SharePoint out there as well. And so while we're waiting, I'm going to pull in Frank Marasco. Special guest Frank Marasco from the Patterns and Practices core team, and we're going to have to play a little passing the ear microphone back and forth, but so hopefully folks can hear us. But one thing I did want to mention before we talk to Frank, who's going to come up with something really interesting to say here in a second, is that we've had for the Patterns and Practices libraries across everything. So JS Core, CSOM Core is by far the largest of this, and then the PowerShell and everything else. We've had over 1 billion requests through those channels in the last 3 months, and that's just folks using the latest version since we put in the request tracking. So really exciting stuff. I think it really shows the value of what we all are doing, all of us, you all included on the call, are doing in the community and really enhancing things and making everybody's life easier. Interestingly enough, I think the #1 method was apply provisioning template. So that's really cool to see that not get list data, not anything else. It's apply provisioning template, which is really exciting, and maybe tells us we've had some conversations in the past around provisioning on Node. Maybe tells us that's something that there might be a little more interest in than possibly the core team might have thought off the top of their head. So Frank, what's going on in your part of the world for patterns and practices?
Okay, guys, let's see if this works. So on my side, what I do, I work in SharePoint Online service engineering, and we've been coming up with new patterns to what we find from the community and issues that arise in the service. So we're actually adding in new capabilities, fixing some things on the side, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
While we see them in the service. So that's our biggest contribution that I can provide from the service engineering side. And I actually have a question for Patrick.
Oh, okay.
When are we going to do Angular 2, man?
When are we going to do Angular 2? We don't have any specific plans, but we are always looking to expand our samples for the SharePoint framework. I myself haven't recently been working on that, but we've got Waldeck. Everybody, I believe, is familiar with Waldeck. He's presented on these calls a few times now. Always has some cool demos. We're working with him as well as some other partners to produce the samples, and those are going to start rolling out. You're going to see more and more of that, and you're also going to start to see, as we get towards the end of the year, looking to land the framework in GA, you're going to see a lot more documentation, a lot clearer documentation that's still developer focused, but also a little cleaner and more polished. So it's still a little raw. You kind of got to dig into the docs and dig into the hands-on labs. But really cool stuff is coming. We'll get Angular 2 out there. A lot of what we're doing right now is React. The product group isn't pushing React, but they have decided they kind of like React. So a lot of our samples are coming out in React, which is cool. But again, the SharePoint framework, you'll be able to use anything you like. So Angular 2, Knockout, handlebars, I suppose, in any of those various frameworks. Or if you've written your own framework, probably can likely use that as well.
The one thing I wanted to ask you, Patrick. All right, we're switching again. One of the things, one of the other things that we've been adding and planning is we see a lot of customers using, JavaScript frameworks, and they need to call that, like in a single page app, but they need to call web APIs that are externally.
Yeah.
And how do we secure that? So the PnP crew is going to get together, put together a sample and some guidance on how you can secure your endpoints, that are called from JavaScript instead of passing shared keys. So that's one of the things that is going to be working on. So stay tuned for that, guys. So
yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
The community runs that capability. So Patrick, maybe you can let us know, right, if that's
so that's definitely something I know the product group is looking at very closely, as well as us on the patterns and practices team, is because calling out the things is going to be a big part of this model, since you can't elevate permissions in the browser. You need to do certain things that might be long running. Provisioning a site certainly isn't a task to be done in a browser. So we would look at, one, the patterns for creating those microservices, and two, how to safely and securely put those out there so you can call them from your applications, but bad actors and whatnot can't call them and possibly compromise the bad guys. So but that's a real focus for us on the core team, and as well the product group. And it's going to be, again, I know I'm sort of pointing to the future, but that's going to be a big part of that story going into the launch, is that auth story and how things play with both Azure Active Directory, how things are going to play with making SharePoint calls and things like that. The SharePoint stuff we've got a little bit better handle on. I think we all sort of understand that, but sort of what's the whole auth picture all up going to look like. That's been a big topic of discussion. That has implications both for our work with JS Core as well as the .NET Core stuff that's out there. How's auth going to work with that, and how are we going to link all these services up in kind of this client world? Because you have to remember your JS or your SharePoint framework components aren't just running on a laptop in a corporate environment. That stuff you'll be able to pull up on your phone, pull up on your tablets, your other devices, and we want to make sure there's a great story on how to implement those services, make them safe, make them secure, and make you and your customers functional and able to do the things you still need to do on the SharePoint framework. So, glancing around again for our special guest. So I'll pull in now Erwin, one of our other Patterns and Practices team members here. So Erwin has done a lot of work along with Paolo and Vesa and Bert on the provisioning framework and things like that. So in terms of provisioning, what parts of that do you think could be brought to sort of the Node framework? And what would be a good target for us in the client side JavaScript community to implement, targeting sort of a base set of functionality?
All right, well, thank you for dropping that question at me without me being prepared for that one. Right. So, effectively, I think the bigger part of the engine could actually be brought over to Node.js. Maybe the size, well, what we don't really do is creating size, and we'll never do that in the engine itself. So, all the sort of smaller artifacts like lists and fields and that kind of stuff, I mean, I can see that absolutely be part of the Node.js, of that framework that you're working on. If we can make a little segue from the framework to something that we noticed now during Ignite, is that we get a lot of interest in something called the partner pack. So if you want to see a very nice implementation, I think personally, of how to use Core and PnP.NET Core and the provisioning framework, I urge you to check out the partner pack, especially version 2.0, which has been released. One of the interesting things we're doing there, and you might be like, oh, what is this now? We introduced a template gallery. Think of it as an app store for templates. And it might give you the vibe, and especially if you've been working with SharePoint for a very long time already, you might have heard of the Fab 40 templates, and that probably will give you a bit shivers, and they're like, whoa, what is this? But what we're looking for is people that want to build great templates and upload them to the PowerShell gallery. Sorry, not the PowerShell gallery, the template gallery. Upload them there, share them with the world. The partner pack can consume those templates without actually downloading. Well, they will download them on the fly from that gallery. So check out the partner pack, version 2.0. 2.0 is available right now. It's a really nice implementation of PnP Core. Absolutely check it out. And there's some wonderful governance functionality in there, like to be able to push out a theme or a logo to all your site collections with one simple click. Or to refresh all the sites based on an existing template, and it will just push out the template. It's all asynchronous. Right now, there's a limitation that it uses Azure, but we're working on an idea on how to get that also to work on-prem. That's it for me for right now, and we're still looking for that other special, very special guest who is said that he was late. So I don't know where he is right now. I haven't seen him. Let me give the mic back to Patrick.
Thanks, Erwin. Yes, so Bill, that's a great point. It's something we've talked about a few times before, but it can never be mentioned enough. Anything long-running, whether it's provisioning is a great case, but anything long-running is really something that needs to be offloaded to this idea of microservices, something that we want to, the pattern is going to be, and I agree 100%, we need to make that documentation clear and really provide good examples of how to do it, as well as very good guidance on how to do it. Because as we develop for the browser, there's a real risk, of course, that folks will start trying to do more and more and more heavy lifting in the browser, which always impacts performance, impacts perceived usefulness of SharePoint, things like that. So it's a great point to keep in mind around provisioning, that it's something that definitely needs to be offloaded to a service, and the partner pack sort of demonstrates this, and something could be done very similarly in Node and using other technologies, but it uses a queue, so it puts the actual provisioning request in an Azure queue, and so that way we can grab it, process it out, and there isn't a risk of losing the idea of provisioning. So we would want to develop a similar model in Node. And I've said this before, if there's somebody out there that would like to become kind of the Node provisioning champion and really sort of take this on, I'd really be happy to work with you. We've got great resources already who've built the core provisioning stuff we can lean on. And, I could definitely foresee a future where we could take the templates and use them either in Node or the core library. That's a little bit far away. Remember, provisioning, you guys have been developing that for a year or 2 years almost, Erwin?
2 years.
2 years. So 2 years of development on that. So it's a lot to do, but we've got some great prior art to leverage there around provisioning. Looking around one more time. Thanks everybody for bearing with us on trying something new here at Ignite. We could go look. We could take the laptop and go looking for him, but I worry we'd lose connectivity. So what else is going on at Ignite around SharePoint and SharePoint Framework? We've had a bunch of great sessions on both from basic use cases to SharePoint Framework, and these sessions will all be available for folks to watch. So once we get those up, we'll make sure to share out the links on this call, but as well as the tech community, so folks can easily find those recordings and check out the stuff about SharePoint Framework. But really, from the very basics, so doing the CRUD operations, doing those sorts of things, to all the way through sort of future plans and roadmaps around SharePoint Framework as well. So ideas like what's coming to the web parts at the end of the year, getting that into GA, getting us able to actually publish to your sites, not just your developer preview sites, but actually getting things into your sites. And that's going to be a really exciting step, I think, for all of us who've been kind of looking at this now for not quite a year, maybe 9 months. And those of you who've been joining the calls and gotten a little bit of an early preview into that, I think it's going to be really exciting when that goes GA to see what folks are developing and putting out there in the world. So I'm a little worried right now about my special guest. Hopefully everything is okay with him. Didn't have too late a night, I hope. But so what else? Any other questions you guys have or thoughts? No typing. Sorry for a little bit of the dead air here. I thought we had this guy lined up. Oh, howdy.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. What's that? We're just doing a little webcast. Do you use the patterns and practices libraries?
No.
No? Would you like to? No? Okay.
Oh, okay. Development. Like, what's he even talking about?
Yeah. All right, man.
I just want to feel a button.
Okay. You can have a button. Yeah. So there's always something going on in Ignite. We've got a lot of swag we're giving away. So try and get some of that. This is great. Bill. I hope folks are enjoying this. As I said at the top, this was either going to be really cool or just a complete disaster. So I'm having fun with this. I've been in booth duty all week, so I'm a little bit punch drunk with standing around and talking to folks. So this is a kind of nice treat for me to just get to blather about what's going on. So we could run around and try and interview people. That would be fun. Hi. Hi, would you like to be on a webcast about Patterns and Practices Framework? No, thank you. All right. No takers so far on the random interview front. But so looking around, so what else can we talk about? So SharePoint Framework, as all of you know, end of the year, but the real focus is going to be on tightening things up, getting things better integrated, and really the auth story is a big piece, what that's going to look like. There's, can I say that? Maybe I can't say that. The auth story is going to change a little bit from what we're all used to around sort of the app reg new and things like that. So not going too far down that road, but so we'll have some changes around there. But it's all around enabling sort of a better cross-platform story for the entire Office 365, as well as keeping on-premises in mind. So making sure we can have nice, clean communication across all the services, Graph included, Azure included, things like that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Does GA at end of year include on-prem? That is a great question, and I don't 100% know the answer because it depends on the cadence of the feature pack or the whatever we're going to end up calling the feature packs at that point. I feel like we rebrand those every couple of months. But it should, the plan that I've heard is for it to come very close on the heels of the GA released Office 365. I think we'll do Office 365 first, like we do with a lot of our new features, but hopefully with a very short lag. So maybe very beginning of Q1, calendar year Q1, so January, February, hopefully that stuff will drop to on-premises. But I'm not 100% sure on the date. No, right now it is targeted to 2016 on-premises. There are discussions around is that something we can bring to 2013? Technically speaking, we could, but it's really going to be, does the product group want to do that? And the way to sort of let people know you want that is let us know on these calls, but also user voice. Also, when Vasa's on these calls, bug Vasa about it, since he's now part of the engineering team. He's a great person to bug about things. Yeah, so would definitely need a service pack release of some sort. So 2016 is a little bit, they've done a lot of work to make it easier to patch and upgrade. 2013 is still going to be the same story. So it's going to be part of some type of a service pack, a little bit larger release, which is why I'm not sure of the timing on that or how we might end up implementing that. So, but great questions. But it will be targeted to 2016 first is where we'll be aiming to do that. So great questions. Let's still not seeing our special guest. I don't know if you guys have seen. I should try and go grab one of these robots. So there's these robots running around Ignite, the telepresence robots that you can steer from home and sort of run around the Ignite floor, and they're running all over the place, which is kind of cool. So you can actually talk to the folks with the robots. I'll see if I can get one to come by here. Will we see and be able to test complete UI branding added to the SharePoint framework prior to GA? So Joel, help me out. Are you talking about the Office UI Fabric, or was there a different UI branding you're thinking of there? Being able to do more than web parts with SharePoint framework. So the first release is going to be web parts, and then later will come sort of those full page applications that we've talked about on, well, it's been months now on this call, but the first focus is going to be on web parts. A lot of the feedback we've gotten from the dev kitchens and things like that is where we can add a lot of immediate value for folks in terms of implementing solutions. And then as well, you can make web parts bigger on the page, right? So you can kind of get that more full page immersive experience. The apps will come later, so there is plans still for the full page applications. So implementing that kind of a model. So you sort of, so it'd be sort of like the idea of a provider-hosted add-in, that when you bounce to the provider-hosted add-in site, you get sort of that full-page experience that you completely control. We want to do something similar for the SharePoint framework. So you would essentially be deploying I'll put in air quotes, a page, and that page would be completely then under your control, right? We'd have our Office 365 header at the top, and there'd be a little bit of footer at the bottom. But then the whole middle part, so any left nav, whatever you want to do, it'll all be a blank canvas for you, completely under your control for checking things out. Well, here's another special guest I can pull in. This is Paolo. How'd your session go this morning, Paolo?
It will be this afternoon, to be fair, but it will be for sure the best one of the conference.
So Paolo is another one of our core team members. We're all kind of hanging around the Patterns and Practices booth this week because we're all sort of homeless. And I actually myself don't have any sessions, but most of the other guys have some sessions this week. So like I said, if you are here at Ignite, come bother us, come get some swag. I'm trying to get that robot's attention out of the corner of its robot eye, but it's looking the wrong way. The robots do have sort of tunnel vision. Can Paolo tell us about his new book? That's a great question. Paolo would love to tell you about his new book, which, by the way, I got him to sign my copy, so if anybody would like to purchase a signed copy from a celebrity. But Paolo, tell us about your book.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Well, my book is about how to create Office 365 solutions using the Microsoft Graph, using the PnP tools, the core library, and whatever we promote as patterns and practices with the PnP project. So if you want to dig into how to create real business solutions, that's a good choice. Of course, I'm selling myself, so maybe I'm not that fair, but I think it's a good choice if you want to read something about how to play at the low level with .NET and with the Microsoft Graph and all the stuff we have in Office 365.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a really great book. Will it be updated?
Yes. Okay. That's funny to exchange these headphones. Okay. Yes, it will be updated. It is under a program called Current Book Service. So if you buy the paper copy of the book or the electronic version, for 18 months from the release of the book, we will have 3 major updates, which will be more or less 30% of updates. So we will add the topics about the SharePoint framework, for example. We are going to cover the new APIs for SharePoint Online, including the Microsoft Graph in the upcoming release and stuff like that. So basically, by buying the book, you will have for 1.5 years a streamline of content, updated and fresh about what you really need to do in your applications.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Paolo. It's a really great book if you haven't checked it out, and it's really great, the service he was just mentioning about getting the updates, because as everything evolves and changes, it's really important that it's time to go shopping at Amazon. Awesome. Yeah, check it out, the book, but getting those updates and everything is really important, because as everything evolves, you'll still have the updated content. You'll still be able to talk about, or read about, rather, sorry, you know, what's new, and it'll always be kind of that evergreen content, which is really exciting. And it keeps Paolo employed. Awesome, thank you, Paolo. Let's see who else we can pull in here. I'm just pulling in anybody that walks by now. Do check out Paolo's book. I've just had word our special guest is lollygagging a little bit. He's at Starbucks getting a coffee instead of making it here to the webcast. So hopefully he's going to make it by the end. I've sent Erwin is on a mission to see if we can find new special guests. So I'm not sure who might come walking up behind me, if anyone. Looks like nobody. So any other questions on the SharePoint framework? I apologize again a little bit for the dead air. I kind of had planned to have a little bit more of an interview thing going on here. It's a special guest, Satya. It is, in fact, Satya. That's why it's very difficult and surprising we could even get him, and I didn't want to mention it at the top of the call. Yeah, so Satya should be by the booth. No, so I'll just tell you, it was going to be Chax was going to stop by. He's on the engineering team, and he's been a big part of designing a lot of the SharePoint framework features. And I thought it'd be really cool to get him here and let you guys ask him questions directly, and make suggestions to him directly as well. Of course, we're always looking for feedback. But so that was going to be Chax. I thought that would be really cool in terms of kind of getting you guys some visibility into sort of the engineering story. I know we try and present some of that, but he's been there from the beginning, so he can sort of explain a lot of the paths they went down, a lot of the decisions they made, and things like that. So. And I don't see him. It's Liam. Hi, Liam. We're doing a live webcast. Do you want to be on our webcast? This is Liam. He's an MVP. Liam, how do you use the Patterns and Practices framework in your day-to-day development life?
For making sure that the dev guys build the solutions the way that Microsoft says they should be built.
Great answer, off the cuff. I love it. Thank you, Liam, for stopping by. So, So it's wild and crazy here. And again, apologies for passing the mic back and forth. We had tried to have a little bit of a conference call solution that ended up not panning out for us. So we've got people behind me. Hopefully everybody can see the video. This is what I look like when I'm not my picture. They also gave us these great sweatshirt hoodies, which are really cool hoodies. And especially because when I come to Atlanta, what I think about is needing a sweatshirt. So this is a really good little booth prize for those of us working here. It's Chax! Chax has arrived, everybody. So get your questions ready. I've seen some people dropping off. Hopefully folks have stuck around. So Chax, welcome to the webcast. So everybody who doesn't know Chax, this is Chax. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, but he's on the engineering team that's designed a lot of the SharePoint framework, all of the SharePoint framework, not a lot of it. And so I'm gonna pass the mic to him and let him introduce himself, and then you guys feel free to have some questions. Here you go, sir.
Excellent. I hope I'm doing this right. Yes. And
Start over. You got muted. Start over.
excellent. Yeah, I think now folks can hear me.
No?
Can folks hear me?
Yes.
Excellent.
All right.
So I'm Chucks. Chakradeep is my full name, but people know me as Chucks. I'm part of the SharePoint Dev Plat team in the SharePoint product group. Of course, the name says it all. We are responsible, for the Dev Plat that helps you build, no matter whether it's full trust farm solutions or add-ins or SharePoint frameworks. A little bit of the REST APIs, depending on how basic they are. So recently I was tasked to bring back web parts, and that was also one of my ideas that I proposed to the team. So here we are at Ignite with the developer preview of SharePoint Framework out, and lots of people are excited to hear about it, and I'm happy to see what customers are saying and giving us more feedback.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit? We've got some questions around the roadmap and what the big announcements around SharePoint Framework are here at Ignite. What can you share?
So I think some of the announcements is basically showing progress from the May 4th, right? We went out on May 4th and showed the world what we are doing with SharePoint, because there's a huge basically reigniting what SharePoint is for team collaboration with the groups integration, groups getting a default team site and all those. And basically now you have a really good team site with a lot of out-of-the-box web parts. There's also the mobile app for Android, as well as for the Windows app announced as well here as a preview. We did announce iOS app earlier during the May 4th event. So a lot of progress. So that basically shows us that we are moving as we promised to our customers. And basically in the framework side, yeah, we did release the preview, and we are almost at we are the drop 4. So August 17th was our date. I cannot forget that date. So now we had a drop 4 just last week, just to cater for the Ignite build that we released online. So yeah, lots of stuff for SharePoint folks to get into, especially if you're planning for an intranet. There is SP Home that gives you a really good view of what is going on in your organization with the different team site activities, and if you're an IT department, you can set the featured sites that you want to pin, so people actually, when they go to SharePoint, which is the tile, you click on the Office 365, they actually get meaningful and known sites that are assigned to them, so they can quickly click on that and get going. And the team collaboration is basically you create a group, now you get a site, team site, or you go create a new team site, you actually get the option of associating it with the group. So lots of goodness there.
Cool. I know we're targeting kind of the end of the year time frame for GA for Office 365, SharePoint Online. What can you tell us about the on-premises story and what our plans might be around that?
So believe it or not, that has been one of the most asked questions. I'm standing in the SharePoint framework booth, and everyone come and ask us 2 questions on on-prem, and I think I would gladly answer them. Yes, we are committed to shipping the framework on-prem. It's just the logistics and, when are the new pages and other new experiences also coming down to on-prem. But we did confirm that we would be delivering it as a feature pack for 2016. I'm not sure about what happens below 2016, but at least that's what we have right now, which we promised in the May 4th event, and we are working around that. So right now I don't have anything, any firm date to share, but at least that's what.
You're committed.
Exactly, we are committed. And the other question that many folks have asked, and I think is very important, is, hey, I'm using SharePoint 2010 or 2013. It'll take some time to, migrate to 2016, or it'll take some time to migrate to Office 365. How can I be ready for the framework, right? And typically, that's a very important question for organizations to take into account today. So I've been telling folks to basically follow the PnP practices on the client-side development model. So using scripted webpack and using the technologies that we use in SharePoint framework, like building in TypeScript, building in using Gulp and Webpack, and basically structuring your project as a real client-side development project, so that then you basically get the same techniques what SharePoint framework uses, but basically that gives you the path to jump on the framework very easily. Than working on something very different today, and then trying to figure out how do I, fill the bridge to get to the framework.
Cool. So any questions? Anybody have questions for Chax? It's a great opportunity. There you go. So you can see the
Well, the question is, how big is the team, and how long have you been working on SPFx? Our team is probably, we have around 20 devs, I think, overall, but that's just my team. And we have been working on SPFx nearly, I think, 1.5 years. That's how I came to this team. Like, we formed this team last year, Jan or Feb. And the Ignite last year was basically for us to come here and have meetings with customers. So we had several meetings with customers, trying to understand where they are and basically what they're doing with their intranet. We did give, we also had a chat with MVPs in the MVP Summit, roundtables and all those. And it just helped us a lot to understand what actually, where customers are, what they're doing, and what they actually need. And then we went on executing on the actual SharePoint framework. And once we announced publicly, the tag SPFx came into existence. Yeah. Oh,
Bill,
folks are
typing.
Yeah, Bill IS seems to be typing a lot. And I think Bill has been active in SharePoint Stack Exchange.
Oh yeah.
And that's another thing that I think key thing to stress here is that we have our GitHub, and all of our documentation is all hosted in GitHub and then pulled into dev.office.com. Oh, there's a bot interrupting us.
We're getting a robot, everybody. We're getting a robot. We're doing a live webcast. Can you come around to here?
There it is. We're getting a bot.
We're getting a robot, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, just over here.
Yeah.
It's over there.
So. Oh, there it is. Now we can see on the screen.
Welcome to our webcast.
Thank you.
I told you guys we had robots.
And we are just talking about some of the SharePoint development announcements that we have here at Ignite. So yeah, you joined us today, so people are excited. These folks are not attending Ignite, so it's really great for them to see what's happening around here.
Oh, they're not attending. They're not attending.
Yes. So they are remote. Yeah, just like you.
Like me, kind of. Well, I'm half and half. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, yeah, they're excited to see you.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
All right.
I wonder how many people are going to be tuning in.
Right now, 22.
Right now, yeah, 22.
Okay, so you can see. So you can see on there.
Yep, yep, yeah.
Very cool. So what do you guys, is this your platform that you're talking about? The podcast?
Yeah, so I'm part of the SharePoint framework team, the SharePoint product group, and we have SharePoint patterns and practices team. So we're all just here, trying to give folks an update on what's going on.
Very cool. All right, so I'll just listen. If you guys have any questions for me, I can answer them. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty much like what I'm doing is driving around, and if someone engages with me, then I like ask them about themselves, and then they can give me some information if they're interested in trying a view. If
Yeah.
they want pricing or if they want rental information, it's kind of sales related, customer service. Talk about the application and how it works. But this is definitely what I do sometimes. So it's fun to be here. So.
Yep. Excellent.
Awesome. We did have a question back up
Yeah.
here from Bill.
So Bill is asking about, I think, do everybody see the question or do I need to repeat the
You
question?
can repeat the question.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
I like the choice of the tool chain, but a lot of SharePoint devs, maybe it's a leap. Should we encourage people to learn the new tooling or should they wait for Visual Studio tooling? That's a very interesting question. Thanks, Bill. So one of the things that we did, went down to do is that make the tool chain as much as open as possible. So it's not something proprietary like how Visual the SharePoint development has been. So open it up and let everyone come and play with it. So one of the things is that makes us choose things wisely, and the tool chain today has been so that it can be used in Windows, Linux, as well as Mac. Believe it or not, we got so many issues reported using the tool chain in Linux as soon as we released the preview, and we had to go and fix few things in the drop too. So that was really cool to see actually people adopting the development framework in a Linux machine because they just feel like that's quite faster for the development and pretty much well equipped for the web development, right? So one of the things we are working with Visual Studio team to make sure that this experience boils down to Visual Studio as well and gives a really good, the same benefits of using Visual Studio for building SharePoint client-side solutions. And yeah, we are still working on it. We know that it's an important thing that many of our customers have asked for. Just look out for more updates as we progress through GA. When will we get, so there's another question, when will we get a preview of the new Pages experience? So the new Pages experience is actually in first release. It's around 60% deployed right now. So if you have a tenant in first release, you should get the bit slowly deployed to you. So that's already there. Someone is typing.
Yeah, somebody's typing.
It's great that we are using Skype for our conference, and every time somebody types, we know that, oh, someone is typing, and it's kind of creepy at the same time. It gives an update of, okay, folks are still there.
So we've got a virtual person watching a virtual presentation.
Exactly. Yep. Oh, here's a question. What considered best practice to include external JavaScript libraries like jQuery? That's an excellent question. So loading an external library is obviously a tough decision all the time, right? Because there are some performance optimizations and stuff like that that could be affected with that. For some of the stuff, utilities and things like that, we have managed to include it in the framework. So they are all loaded, and basically they are loaded in the same CDN, so you don't get different instances of the libraries loaded. So that brings us to a very good point. Let's leave jQuery off the table right now. But if you are loading a library, say you have 10 web parts, and all the 10 web parts depend on, say, moment.js or maybe slick.js or something, it is recommended that the first path for you, excellent, thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
The first path, I think, Good, yeah. The first part is go and look out if the external library that you are adding has a NPM module. So the NPM module means that you would have to go look at the NPM registry, like NPMI, moment.moment and stuff like that. So that gives you the library in the form of a AMD module, which is very important. Like it's a JavaScript module that you can load dynamically in your web part. So once you do that, once it's installed, it's available in your node modules, and then you can basically go and say import star as moment from moment JS or whatever the library name is. So the tool chain then goes and traverses through different locations to find the AMD module with the name moment.js, for example. And if it finds, it loads dynamically in the runtime. So that's one experience. But at the same time, it's available in the node module doesn't mean that it should be bundled with your web part. So at the end of the day, when you bundle your web part, that is the one that is going to be loaded in SharePoint, it should only be about the web part, right? These libraries could be basically loaded from your node modules folder in this case. So you mark it as external in the config file, which is under the config directory called config.json. So that is one option. And the other option is basically don't do NPMI. You already have it in a CDN, whether that's a CDN provided by the library or the CDN that you host to load your libraries, right? And as long as you keep consistent in loading that same CDN for a particular library, the browser cache is a cube to say do not, not to load it again because I already loaded that library from a specific CDN example. So that's kind of like what we do with, say, for example, the tutorial that we have on jQuery basically follows the first pattern that I talked about, the npm install. But the problem with jQuery is a little bit different, right? Because there is a global jQuery object that gets loaded, and that's what every other things in the page might be looking into. So we are still looking at, what's the best way to do that. Not that you cannot do it today. Maybe there is a thing that the SharePoint framework can provide some support for jQuery. But absolutely, you can go, as long as the jQuery is loaded from a specific CDN, and make sure you follow the pattern for your enterprise. That helps, not loading multiple jQuery objects, at least just focusing on one jQuery. Or the best even, if you don't want to go to the CDN, because some organizations may not allow to go outside. We have this awesome feature in preview. We announced it last week, enabling CDN support for document libraries. Yep. So you could go to, say, app catalog or to a site collection a common site collection that you want to create a library called, JavaScript libraries or something, JS for libraries, enable CDN, and you can download the jQuery version that you want to use, put it in that library, and make it a governance standard that every developer in your organization can reference the libraries from that library where you have the set of external stuff available for your organization. In that way, you have a governance of, okay, here's the jQuery version, all of my solutions in my enterprise is going to use, and then you can upgrade them. So you get a really good path for doing that. And yeah, so that's probably a long answer, but hope it helps. So the other thing also we have is that, many folks ask me, hey, what do I do for some common operations, like I want to talk to list, I want to talk to this, I want to know whether list exists, I want to know whether, field exists and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that for a developer, the actions are very common across different projects. So as you guys know, PnP is now part of the product group. So Vesa, who's the core team member of PnP, actually is my peer. We work together every day to ensure that we have the right models for, making you guys help succeed with the framework or help succeed today to get into the framework. And also basically look at how we can bring the feedback into the product from PnP. A very good example of that is the remote provisioning that we have in PnP. We are extensively looking into it already. There is a session today as well with Vesa and Sean Squares from the product team. who both are talking about how we are working to bring the remote provisioning, bring those advantages and capabilities into the product. So you don't have to go do this in PnP, but actually the product gives you that benefit. So similarly, there is another piece in the PnP where I think it is extremely beneficial is the PnP Code.js. I think that has a very good potential. It's already a JavaScript NPM package, so it gives us a lot of flexibility in using some of the features. And I've already been talking to Patrick on how we can improve that and how we can add more stuff to it so that it benefits developers around the world in using the some of the utilities and functions for their web parts and whatnot. So there's another question. Oh, there's actually two questions. When will we get a preview of the dev tools for new pages experience? So there isn't any new tool. If you actually have pages in your tenant, if you have first release enabled and you get pages, you can deploy your app in the app catalog and then go to a modern page. You will see that web part, and you can still have your Gulp serve running locally. And if you click on that web part, it should load it from your local box. So that flow is still there. There is no long this flow and framework is common regardless of classic or modern. The experiences are same for that. So if you have new pages, you can just go and do the same steps and get the result to test in new pages. There's another question. So it's generally part of the tenant governance to avoid library conflicts and no technical way to make sure SPFx from different vendors work fine together. Short answer, yeah. It's a JavaScript world. You can only govern, but you cannot stop people from doing what they're doing. So it is up to us to decide, as an enterprise, what am I doing and how far I'm doing it. Even for vendors, if there are two categories of vendors, right? The first category is someone the enterprise could hire and to build the solutions in the enterprise. I think that should follow a process where the vendor clearly knows that here are the set of libraries the organization wants him or her to use, and we should use that. The other category of vendors and possibly the other category of apps is that the ones that come from the store. So there we are trying to optimize as much as we can and provide some of the libraries, maybe whether we can provide it in the SharePoint. So if you're loading jQuery or Moment or something like that, we actually have it in SharePoint, so vendors don't need to load them separately. But at the end of the day, we're not blocking them. So if some vendors misbehave and load the hell, like for example, Lodash is a very good example. I don't know how many in the call know about a Lodash utility. It's a very, 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 very useful utility. If you're building React, if you're using React, I would highly recommend use Lodash. It helps you to have, it doesn't mutate any objects, and there is a lot of benefits of using Lodash with a lot of utility functions. But it's a huge library. So we took over we basically took the bundle that Lodash default has, and we created a subset of Lodash functions available in SharePoint out of the box. So all you need to do is import star as Lodash from the @Microsoft sp-lodash-subset, right? So sp-lodash-subset is the NPM package under @Microsoft scope that has very specific things optimized for SharePoint framework. So you don't have to go and separately do npm I Lodash and then get all the all the stuff loaded. Right. So we use it extensively. Obviously, when we use it, one of the goals for us is first parties, which are Microsoft developers, and third parties, which are our customers, are same. So we don't do anything different in this client-side framework. So the benefits directly flow to customers as well.
That's great. We'll take the last final question here from Pascal.
So the question is, any plans to provide guidelines, docs, how SPFx SPFx web parts should be written regarding external library loading. Yep. So we already have a documentation in the dev.office.com SharePoint, and then you go to the Get Docs, and you will under web parts. There is a I forgot the exact DOC, but we already have a document on how to load external library on different occasions depending on your scenario. And I think there is also I was talking to Vesa long back that we should have a sample that basically shows the different modes of how you load external library and avoid conflicts, or use the best practice for these. So absolutely, they are coming. We have the first part, the documentation, and folks, I mean, this is all open. So we have around 10 web parts already, 10 plus web parts already contributed. So if you go through the docs are open as well to get issues fixed. We already got few issues fixed in the doc through PR. So you can actually go through the doc, try it for yourself, and if you have a sample, feel free to create a PR against the web parts repo, the sample web parts repo, and we are all here waiting for you guys. So we will make sure that it is addressed and helps the broader community. Yep. Thanks, guys.
Challenge accepted. That's awesome. Thanks, everybody, for attending this call. I want to thank Chax for coming by. I really appreciate it. Some great, valuable information. Hope this was good for you guys as well. Got to see a bot. Got to meet Erwin and Paolo and Frank. Lots of cool stuff going on here at Ignite. So thanks, everybody. Have a great week. And from Ignite, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.